demeanour and surprisingly lengthened visage, he approached the pair who were waiting for him, and regarding him with severe looks. Thinking it the best plan to open the fire himself, Nicholas saluted them, and said "Give you good day, Sir Ralph, and you too, worthy Mr. Dewhurst. I scarcely expected to see you so early astir, good sirs, but the morning is too beautiful to allow us to be sluggards. For my own part, I have been awake for hours, and have passed the time wholly in self reproaches for my folly and sinfulness last night, as well as in forming resolutions for self amendment and better government in future." "I hope you will adhere to those resolutions, then, Nicholas," rejoined Sir Ralph, sternly, "for change of conduct is absolutely necessary if you would maintain your character as a gentleman. I can make allowance for high animal spirits, and can excuse some licence, though I do not approve of it; but I will not permit decorum to be outraged in my house, and suffer so ill an example to be set to my tenantry." "Fortunately I was not present at the exhibition," said Dewhurst; "but I am told you conducted yourself like one possessed, and committed such freaks as are rarely, if ever, acted by a rational being." "I can offer no defence, worthy sir, and you my respected relative," returned Nicholas, with a contrite air. "Neither can you reprove me more strongly than I deserve, nor than I upbraid myself. I allowed myself to be overcome by wine, and in that condition was undoubtedly guilty of follies I must ever regret." "Amongst others, I believe you stood upon your head," remarked Dewhurst. "I am not aware of the circumstances, reverend sir," replied Nicholas, with difficulty repressing a smile; "but as I certainly lost my head, I may have stood upon it unconsciously. But I do recollect enough to make me heartily ashamed of myself, and determined to avoid all such excesses in future." "In that case, sir," rejoined Dewhurst, "the occurrences of last night, though sufficiently discreditable to you, will not be without profit; for I have observed, to my infinite regret, that you are apt to indulge in immoderate potations, and, when under their influence, to lose due command of yourself, and commit follies which your sober reason must condemn. At such times I scarcely recognise you. You speak with unbecoming levity, and even allow oaths to escape your lips." "It is true, reverend sir," said Nicholas; "but zounds a plague upon my tongue. It is an unruly member. Forgive me, good sir, but my brain is a little confused." "I do not wonder, from the grievous assaults made upon it last night, Nicholas," observed Sir Ralph. "Perhaps you are not aware that your crowning act was whisking wildly round the room by yourself, like a frantic dervish." "I was dancing with Isole de Heton," said Nicholas. "With whom?" inquired Dewhurst, in surprise. "With a wicked votaress, who has been dead nearly a couple of centuries," interposed Sir Ralph, "and who, by her sinful life, merited the punishment she is said to have incurred. This delusion shows how dreadfully intoxicated you were, Nicholas. For the time you had quite lost your reason." "I am sober enough now, at all events," rejoined Nicholas, "and I am convinced that Isole did dance with me, nor will any arguments reason me out of that belief." "I am sorry to hear you say so, Nicholas," returned Sir Ralph. "That you were under the impression at the time, I can easily understand; but that you should persist in such a senseless and wicked notion is more than I can comprehend." "I saw her with my own eyes, as plainly as I see you, Sir Ralph," replied Nicholas, warmly. "That I declare upon my honour and conscience; and I also felt the pressure of her arms. Whether it may not have been the Fiend in her likeness, I will not take upon me to declare. Indeed, I have some misgivings on the subject; but that a beautiful creature, exactly resembling the votaress, danced with me, I will ever maintain." "If so, she was invisible to others, for I beheld her not," said Sir Ralph; "and though I cannot yield credence to your explanation, yet, granting it to be correct, I do not see how it mends your case." "On the contrary, it only proves that Master Nicholas yielded to the snares of Satan," said Dewhurst, shaking his head. "I would recommend you long fasting and frequent prayer, my good sir, and I shall prepare a lecture for your special edification, which I will propound to you on your return to Downham; and if it fails in effect, I will persevere with other godly discourses." "With your aid I trust to be set free, reverend sir," returned Nicholas; "but as I have already passed 2 or 3 hours in prayer, I hope they may stand me in lieu of any present fasting, and induce you to omit the article of penance, or postpone it to some future occasion, when I may be better able to perform it; for I am just now particularly hungry, and am always better able to resist temptation with a full stomach than an empty one. As I find it displeasing to Sir Ralph, I will not insist upon my visionary partner in the dance, at least until I am better able to substantiate the fact, and I shall listen to your lectures, worthy sir, with great delight, and I doubt not with equal benefit. But in the meantime, as carnal wants must be supplied, and mundane matters attended to, I propose, with our excellent host's permission, that we proceed to breakfast." Sir Ralph made no answer, but ascended the steps, and was followed by Dewhurst, heaving a deep sigh, and turning up the whites of his eyes, and by Nicholas, who felt his bosom eased of half its load, and secretly congratulated himself upon getting out of the scrape so easily. In the hall they found Richard Assheton, habited in a riding dress, booted, spurred, and in all respects prepared for the expedition. There were such evident traces of anxiety and suffering about him, that Sir Ralph questioned him as to the cause, and Richard replied that he had passed a most restless night. He did not add that he had been made acquainted by Adam Whitworth with the midnight visit of the 2 girls to the conventual church, because he was well aware Sir Ralph would be greatly displeased by the circumstance, and because Mistress Nutter had expressed a wish that it should be kept secret. Sir Ralph, however, saw there was more upon his young relative's mind than he chose to confess, but he did not urge any further admission into his confidence. Meantime the party had been increased by the arrival of Master Potts, who was likewise equipped for the ride. The hour was too early, it might be, for him, or he had not rested well like Richard, or had been troubled with bad dreams, but certainly he did not look very well, or in very good humour. He had slept at the Abbey, having been accommodated with a bed, after the sudden seizure which he attributed to the instrumentality of Mistress Nutter. The little attorney bowed obsequiously to Sir Ralph, who returned his salutation very stiffly, nor was he much better received by the rest of the company. At a sign from Sir Ralph, his guests then knelt down, and a prayer was uttered by the divine, or rather a discourse, for it partook more of the latter character than the former. In the course of it, he took occasion to paint in strong colours the terrible consequences of intemperance, and Nicholas was obliged to endure a well merited lecture of half an hour's duration. But even Parson Dewhurst could not hold out for ever, and, to the relief of all his hearers, he at length brought this discourse to a close. Breakfast at this period was a much more substantial affair than a modern morning repast, and differed little from dinner or supper, except in respect to quantity. On the present occasion there were carbonadoes of fish and fowl, a cold chine, a huge pasty, a capon, neat's tongues, sausages, botargos, and other matters as provocative of thirst as sufficing to the appetite. Nicholas set to work bravely. Boiled trout, steaks, and a huge slice of venison pasty disappeared quickly before him, and he was not quite so sparing of the ale as seemed consistent with his previously expressed resolutions of temperance. In vain Parson Dewhurst filled a goblet with water, and looked significantly at him. He would not take the hint, and turned a deaf ear to the admonitory cough of Sir Ralph. He had little help from the others, for Richard ate sparingly, and Master Potts made a very poor figure beside him. At length, having cleared his plate, emptied his cup, and wiped his lips, the squire arose and said he must bid adieu to his wife, and should then be ready to attend them. While he quitted the hall for this purpose, Mistress Nutter entered it. She looked paler than ever, and her eyes seemed larger, darker, and brighter. Nicholas shuddered slightly as she approached, and even Potts felt a thrill of apprehension pass through his frame. He scarcely, indeed, ventured to look at her, for he dreaded her mysterious power, and feared she could fathom the designs he secretly entertained against her. But she took no notice whatever of him. Acknowledging Sir Ralph's salutation, she motioned Richard to follow her to the